Yeah.
2 class.
Okay.
It'll work.
Okay, Harland Williams, thank you for joining
Are
us.
you kidding? What a treat. What a dairy fresh treat.
You're so sweet. You're going to be at Helium Comedy Club 3 nights.
Yes, 2 shows tonight, 2 shows Saturday, and 1 Sunday.
That's exciting.
Yeah, you gonna come?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah,
Oh, good.
I'll be there.
Finally.
Yes. So I was just researching you a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously, and you have this podcast too, because everyone's doing a podcast now.
Yeah, for sure.
You have to get on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
But you, we kind of do a podcast too. We don't kind of do
What?
it.
We do
definitely
do a podcast.
It's not
Kinda.
this stays in this room. So I just wanted to ask you some maybe tips or challenges that you have with your podcast.
Pro tips.
Pro tips.
Pro
Okay,
tip.
we'll call them pro tips.
Pro
I
tip.
like that.
Well, the hardest part of a podcast is getting people to listen to it.
Okay.
That's the real hard part. You know, when I started, I was one of the early people into podcasting. When the stand-up comedians jumped in, I think I was one of the original 6 or the original 8. It was like Mark Maron, Adam Carolla, me, and a few others. And then within about a year and a half, almost every single stand-up comedian
Took
and just,
off.
just about everyone you know. My mother has a podcast, and she's dead. It's like ridiculous. So, I mean, so you've got this giant marketplace, and you're kind of competing for listeners. And the only way to really get them is to like plug your podcast, the Harland Highway at harlandwilliams.com.
I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Every opportunity you can get.
Did your celebrity help at all, like starting out?
I think it helps a little bit. I think it helps if you've already got a fan base and if you got a following and people know you. It definitely helps people come to harlandwilliams.com and listen to the Harland Highway. But that doesn't mean anything really, because there's people who are completely unknown that have, there's people out there that get podcasts that have 100, 200, 500,000 listeners.
That's
so,
us.
Is that how many? You guys have that many?
Stop lying.
Wow, good
I'm
for you.
asking you for tips, and okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't really give you a tip. I guess I just told you how hard it is. But the tip is to just do a great show and get people in, and that's the secret recipe, right? Like what quantifies a show being great? What inspires people? What gets people to listen? And it's a bit of a mystery, you know?
I think one of the hardest things we have is like consistency, because we all have like full-time jobs, 2 jobs, and you're on the road a lot. Like, how is consistency?
Consistency, for me, it's good because I do 2 shows a week, the Harland Highway at harlandwilliams.com.
You do 2 shows a week?
I do 2. I used to do 3.
Holy shit, we struggle to do 1.
Yeah, I know. I put in a lot of work, and I just aired my 900th episode.
No way!
Yeah.
Congrats, dude.
Yeah, 900th.
We're on episode 26 next week.
I know.
26.
And mine's my podcast, unlike many of them, is has a lot of production value. Like I put in, I do everything myself. A lot of guys have people doing stuff, but I do everything on my own, and I put in tons of sound effects and music, and I do characters and voices, and I do a lot of stuff. So mine's very labor intensive, but it's a labor of love. And it can be frustrating. There's been days when I'm like, oh man, all this work, and I only have like X amount of listeners, and I'm not going to do it anymore. But then you realize why you do it. It's for the joy of it. It's for, then you get an email from someone and they say, I've been having a really tough month, or I've had a really bad year, and your podcast keeps me going. The laughter, the things you say, it keeps me going. And you go, wow, man. So you just do it for the love of it,
Yeah.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to your last one, and you said, or I guess you talked about, someone had died at Burning Man.
Yeah.
Dark
so
turn.
he died at Burning Man from catching on fire.
Well, he died. I was at Burning Man, and at the end of Burning Man on the second last night, I was there.
Okay.
They build a giant wooden man out of wood, and they burn it, and 70,000 people sit in a circle and watch it. And just as fate would have it, right in front of me, a guy got up and ran right into the fire. He literally left the ground and dove into the fire, and I watched a guy die. And it was hard. It was hard. I did a whole podcast about it, and it was hard to watch.
So you think that was his intention in going to Burning Man? If he willingly ran into this fire?
In my heart, I don't believe it was. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
But I think based on his behavior, he reminded me of one of those guys that runs on a football field, with the shirt off, and he was running around. He was very sprightly, and it looked like he was having fun, and he was toying with the security people, and he was kind of skipping and dancing, and everyone was like, "Oh, this guy's just goofing around." And then he just turned, and you got to remember this fire's huge, 50 feet wide and 80 feet high. He just turned and ran and dove right into it.
I'm wondering, oh my God.
It was very hard to see. Yeah, it was. I've never seen a man die, but
especially
it happened.
Burned to death, nonetheless.
Yeah, this was like 3 weeks ago, so it's crazy.
Damn, the irony.
If you don't mind me,
too.
How is that on you? Is that taxing on you? Is that something you still see?
Yeah. It was really tough. It was really hard. I prayed for the guy. I cried for the guy. And going back to my podcast, the Harland Highway at harlandwilliams.com. Interestingly enough, one of the guy's friends heard my podcast about it, and he phoned me and left me a message and talked to me about it. And so I'm actually going to reach out to him when I get back from this tour and call him and ask him all these questions that you're asking me, because he was there with the guy. He knew the guy, and he was 41 years old. He had a family. He was married, and the guy who left me the message said he was a very fun guy who liked to make people laugh and full of life. So if I had to guess, I think he might have been cranked up on something a little nutty that made him feel impervious to pain or
That's
fire.
What I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have to guess that if he was suicidal, he just would have stood up and run right in and died, know? And Burning Man's not necessarily the place you want to kill yourself, because it's such a joyous, wonderful, love-filled festival. So
it's like a cleansing thing almost, right? A lot of people go there.
It's very spiritual. So I'm guessing, but if I would guess maybe he just did it. It was an impulse moment, and he might have been intoxicated, but we'll never know. Just sad that he's gone. But like I said, my podcast is hilarious, and people.
You go over there. You did a nice tribute to him. That was really sweet.
Well, thank you. And that's the beauty of podcasts. Like 90% of my podcasts are just comedy driven. But if something happens in my life that's really dramatic or emotional or something, I can talk about that too. So this was one of those moments where I was able to kind of get it out and talk about it. So it's an interest. That's what's great about podcasts. They just let you go anywhere, right?
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
That was a good pro tip to kind of maybe pay tribute or something to somebody. Have you seen Jim Carrey in the media lately?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, is he being like this comedic genius, or is he kind of like off of his rocker? Like, is he okay? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I know Jim. I've worked with Jim. I've spent time with Jim, and he's an amazing man. He's very complex, and he's very deep, and he's I don't like throwing the word genius around, because that word is so huge. I feel like Albert Einstein was a genius, and everyone else just can be really great. But the things Albert thought of were genius. But Jim is a great creative person, and I think he's like an onion. He's got many layers, and I think he's at a point in his life, based on what I saw from that video, that he's just kind of hit another layer that he's peeling back, where it's self realization, and it's maybe a realization about the world. I don't want to speak for Jim, but and also it looks to me it's a little bit of the wear and tear of a busy, hard, energetic, creative life. It's also maybe due to his lifestyle. It might be,
I read a report that he was like he's prepping for a role, and that he's trying to find that character.
That's possible. Yeah, he gets into it, because with the Andy Kaufman movie, apparently the lead up to that movie, he stayed in character as Andy the whole time. So Jim's a deep thinker. He has a video on YouTube where I think he gave a commensuration speech. Is that the word?
Love it.
Yeah.
To a school, and he showed one of his giant paintings, and it was very deep and And so, I can't speak for Jim, but
Sure.
I think it's all of it. Maybe he's losing it a little bit. Maybe he's had an epiphany about life. Maybe he's come to a place where he sees an alternate reality that is something we all should probably think about. My mother told me years ago she read this book, and I can't remember the name of it. I think it was called The Seven Horsemen or something, where
Holy shit.
I can't remember, but she mentioned it just in passing, and it was very proud. She said, it's a book about how there's like nine men running the whole planet. Like there's 9 guys that really are pulling the levers and running the whole economy. They decide when there's a war, when there's not a war. Like there's 9 really powerful guys somewhere that are, and now I don't know if that's true or not, but you got to think in any hierarchy, right? In any society, there's always a pecking order. There's always leaders, and you think, what if there was just a room with like 9 guys going,
Right.
you know what? Let's have the U.S. and Iran have a war.
Taking bets.
Let's get.
Right.
But they just make it happen through their power, because But anyways, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's too far fetched. I mean, with the banking crisis, there was like a room full of people like making decisions.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
the economy collapsed. It's just
anything's possible. And I think with Jim's stuff, he was alluding to, and from what I could take from it, that there's just all these layers, and there's certain people making decisions and in charge, but you best ask him. I mean, I would
right,
like
right.
to
Maybe you know
interpret.
something we don't, or
Yeah,
I haven't
but-
even seen the video.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
but
Jim's
yeah.
an amazing guy. He's a great guy, and hopefully whatever he's doing is cool, and he's okay, and he's healthy, and he's all right.
How do you prep for roles, like when you get a new script and things like that?
I'm the opposite. I like to not even know the character until the first day that they say action. I go the
fine.
complete opposite. I just love to let the character find me.
Okay.
It's like, it's all that pressure. I know the script. I've read the script, and I go, fuck, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And I said, I can't find him in the real world.
Right.
But when they say action, I know I'm in that movie, and I just go, come to me, and I just open my mouth and let the character be born as I
Nice.
start. And I don't know if that's the proper way to do it, but
It
that's
works for
how I
you.
do it. And
Yeah.
I find it amazing because it takes me over. It just comes. It's like a light switch, and I go, wow, I'm not Harland. I'm this guy now living in this world. As soon as it's almost like they said action and a door open and a new person walked through it,
I would think it's easier to just turn off, whereas like if you've delved into a character, you're that person, but when you just turn it on, is it easier to turn it off?
Yeah, it's easy to turn it off, but I also find when I just turn it on, it in the realm of acting, it's beautiful to me because I haven't done any premeditated research on who this character is. And so I can be going through a scene and find, nuances and tics and accents or whatever in this character in the moment. It's coming to me. It's being born in the moment. So it's really beautiful. It just takes you over. So it's cool. That's my process. So
It's like organic.
There you
Improv
go.
almost.
There you go.
it's improv, but I also feel the character. Like I just don't go off. If I create a character, I stay true to the voice of who's calling to me.
Mhm.
I just don't go, oh, I bet I could be funny here if I made a wacky face. I don't go
Right.
there. I go, well, what would this character do here? What would his inflection be? What would his body language be? What would his facial expression be? Would he talk a lot? Would he be quiet? Would he be loud? So I just let it be born in the moment, and that way it's very pure to me, and he evolves and comes to life as I move forward with the words.
I love that.
Yeah, it's scary as hell because
Because you're like, who is this person?
yeah,
anyway?
because my mind tells me, dude, sit down and prepare and know this person, and I go, I can't know them until I am them, and so I just it's scary as hell, but I love it. Like it because I've been lucky where my faith in that process is always worked for me. Like it's come to me when I did it, and so
that's awesome because you hear so many other actors and comedians and whoever's like in this like starlight role. They're like prepare, you know, like study, get into the act. People like Heath Ledger, I mean,
that was intense.
with the Joker, right?
Yeah.
It consumed him, like it was him. Yeah. But I think that's awesome to where you're just like,
don't
show up on set and you're like, okay, I'm a state trooper.
Yeah.
And you know, boom, there you go.
Yeah. And I think if I had to do like a you know, a historical reference or someone that existed, like, you know, if there was a, you know, Hitler or whatever, of course that's something I'm going to research. But when it's a character that's completely fictional and the world's never seen it before, those are the characters I just let them find type of thing, you know.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's like they're in you already. You just
they're
come out.
It's like a seance. Come out, you little monkey. You know, there they are.
So my absolute favorite movie with you is Half Baked.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I know, right?
Right.
So I guess while you were filming and making this movie and reading your script, was there any point you're like, wow, this is gonna make history? This is gonna be the one. Like this is instant classic, or did it kind of like unravel itself?
Yeah, you know, I didn't know what it would do. I actually turned that movie down about like 5 times. I didn't want to do it.
No.
I said no to it. Yeah, and I wasn't a big druggy guy, and I didn't want to do and my manager said, dude, you're an actor. Like, you're playing a druggie. And I thought, you know, I played a serial killer in something about Mary, and I've never murdered anyone. So I thought, you know, he was right. Maybe I was overthinking it. So I finally met with the producers, and they said, Harland, what can we do to get you to do this movie? And I said, you know, if you'll give me room to improv, like, all my scenes, I'll do the script. Of course, I'll do the lines of the script, but allow me to do a take where I can improv as well, or inject improv into what's written. I'm on board. And they said, go for it.
Okay.
So I was able to improvise a lot of the lines in that movie, like no more window love. I just made up in the moment, and I'm somebody's bitch. I just made up in the moment. And
I mean, all of you guys in that movie are hilarious. Was there a lot of improv throughout the movie? Just 'cause...
You know, I don't know how much the other guys improv'd as much as I did, but I was a little more seasoned. I'd already done a few movies at that point, and I think for Dave and Brewer, those were their first movies. I think. I'm pretty sure. At least
I can see that
a big level. So I don't know how much they improv'd. I don't know how much Chappelle's an improv guy, but they might have to a degree. I'm not sure, but. I know I certainly did a hell of a lot, you know, and I was happy to see they left a ton of my lines in the movie, you know, the dirty jungle of love and, you know, buttercup and butter stuff, like all that stuff. The line just read, you know, I love buttercup, and then I just kept saying his name wrong, and luckily the cop that was playing the cop in that scene, he had an improv background, so every time I said a new name like butter stuff or butternut, he just kept going with me. And so I'll never forget, we shot that out on a street in Toronto, and a huge crowd had formed, and we shot it like it was 11 at night, and it was a hot summer night. And we must have done that scene like 3 or 4 times, and every time I improvised it different, and the crowd was just like, it's the only movie I've done where the crowd like was clapping at the end of it. It was so amazing.
So it's just like out on the street?
It was right out on the street, and ironically, it was in Toronto, which is where I'm from. And if you look at the scene, it's in front of a pizza parlor called Pizza Pizza, and that was a place me and my high school buddies used to go and get pizza on Saturday nights.
How crazy!
And off to the side, my best friend from high school, Steve Reeves, was sitting in my chair watching the scene, and it was surreal, man. I was like, I can't believe I'm back here
in your hometown.
In my hometown with my high school buddy after we'd hung out here all those nights, and I'm shooting the butter stuff scene from Half Baked.
Everybody's clapping.
It was amazing. It was a surreal moment. Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
So, out of all the movies that you've done, what would you say is your favorite one? Do you have a favorite one?
I always say they're all my favorites because they're all like little gems. They're little diamonds. But I think one of my top up there has to be Rocket Man. It was a Disney movie I did. And it's funny because with all this Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un stuff that's going on now, he called him Rocket Man, and now my like Twitter's just blowing up. Everyone's going, "You're the real Rocket Man, Harland."
That is funny.
But it was a real kooky like Disney movie that I got to star in, and it was just really intense, and it had a big budget, and it took like 4 months to shoot, and it was great. So that one's one of the top ones, I think.
It's your top one?
Yeah.
Is there just, I guess, fun facts? Is there like an actor that you've worked with who like
spit it out?
I know. Like who's been the most damn, what am I trying to say? Who have you worked with that you like to work with the best so far in your career, I guess?
Oh man. I mean, working with Jim was just a mind blower, because he was just, at the time we shot that, he was like blowing up, and as a comedian, to watch Jim, I've always loved comedians who are real pioneers, like Curly from the Three Stooges, or Jerry Lewis, or Mike Myers, like guys that do stuff that you haven't really seen before. When you saw Jim in Ace Ventura just doing some of the physical comedy and things that no one had really done yet, and so it was just amazing to work with Jim, and he was such a nice guy on top of it. But Bruce Willis was really cool. I was surprised by Bruce. We shot the whole 9 yards, and I wasn't sure what he'd be like, because he was such a big superstar, but he was just like the nicest, friendliest, like cool guy, man. Like he really surprised me. And he, when we weren't shooting, he'd have parties up in his penthouse hotel room. And one night he rented out a local bar, and he got up with his band and sang.
He's in a band?
Yeah, he actually had some.
Bruno, right?
Bruno, yeah, he had some hit songs back in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, he had MTV videos and everything.
Yeah.
How did
I don't know. I didn't catch it either.
Yeah, well, 80s. I'm dating myself, and so he was like really awesome and cool. But yeah, they're all favorites. So movies are like little presents, and I mean, I've done movies where I've shot on a submarine. I was a submariner. I've done movies like Superstar, where I was a motorcycle stud and a leather jacket, and I'm actually the hottie. And I've done movies where I've had to dress like women, like sorority boys,
That
and
was
Mr.
amazing.
Headmistress. And it's just the fun of acting. You get to be all these crazy characters. So
what a cool
it's a
job,
blast.
man.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
And then you got your stand-up on top of it.
Yeah.
Like you're at, so this is Sunday. This is going to air for us.
Yeah.
But this weekend, so you already did one on Thursday.
That's right.
And you
yeah.
said the fire alarm went off with...
Yeah, well, that went on after my show. I guess my set was so hot, the smoky,
that's right. I thought you were going with that, yes.
Yeah, but Portland's a great town, great on. People are very like kind of loose up here. You know what I mean? Like people have a real open mind to any kind of concept. Like some clubs you go to and you kind of go down a weird road or take a weird path with your material, and they're like, what the hell is he talking about? But I find in Portland you can talk about anything, and the folks just kind of, they're open and they go with you. So it's I love coming here because it's a great place to experiment and try new stuff and kind of find stuff that I probably might not do in another city. So
right.
Yeah, it's great.
Pretty open, pretty liberal.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
You can be just about anything you want to be here.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. It's really cool.
No
yeah.
No judging.
Yeah.
Is there any place you like to eat when you come here? I always like to ask that.
Oh yeah, where do I like to eat, man? I went to Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
You can go to Ruth Chris anywhere.
Yeah, I know, but I like it.
That's a great thing,
I
right?
like it here the most.
Okay.
And I won't go to it anywhere, just here.
Really?
Yeah, no,
You're joking.
I'm just.
Okay. like, I'll let him know. All right, cool. Do you guys have any more questions for him?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for coming by.
Thank you. Can I mention one thing before we go?
Please.
My new stand-up comedy special, we just shot it. It's going to be coming out in 2018.
Where'd you shoot it at?
We shot it in Los Angeles, and it's going to be called Caramel Corn the Pug Live. It's the first stand-up comedy special. We shot a whole hour where I did my whole act as a dog.
You're joking.
I have this crazy pug mask with and the mouth articulates, and so I did my whole set as a dog as Caramel Corn the pug.
What?
So keep your eyes open for that.
Is this like an alter ego?
No, it's just I've done like 59,000 stand-up comedy specials over the course of my career, and I'm just like, I don't want to do another special where it's just me in jeans and a t-shirt doing my act. I want to do something that stimulates me, is a little bit scary, and maybe gives the comedy crowd
something new,
something fresh and ridiculous. And so I thought, no one's ever done their special as a dog, so
I gotta see this.
Keep your eyes open for Caramel Corn the pug.
Are you busting out any of Caramel Corn the pug this weekend?
Pug. No, not this weekend. No, I did not bring the mask.
You didn't bring the mask?
Caramel Corn is at home licking himself, but keep your eyes open for the special. It'll be coming out in 2018.
Where will they be able to find it?
Netflix?
We don't know yet because we're right now we're actually just cutting it together, and then we're gonna take it out, see if Netflix or Showtime or whoever wants it, and find a home for it. So
cool, man.
So it's gonna be exciting.
I can't wait to see
Caramel
it.
Corn.
Hashtag Caramel
one more time, what's your podcast for?
Plug it.
Yeah,
Wait, let me do
please.
the look. The Harland Highway at harlandwilliams.com or iTunes.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
man.
Thanks for
coming
coming
by, man.
Thank you.
Cool.